Our session today, Cfpb Tools and Resources for Providing Financial Education to College Students and Prospective College Students, is packed with full of great information, but we're very fortunate to have a special guest doing our opening comments today, and we'd like to welcome Director Kathleen Cranninger, who is going to give a few comments. And before she does, I wanted to just read a brief bio with some of her amazing accomplishments. She is been the second confirmed director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and she was confirmed in December 2018. From her early days as a Peace Corps volunteer to her establishing the Department of Homeland Security, to her work in the Office of Management and Budget, to the CFPB, Director Cranninger has dedicated her career to public service, and it's my privilege to welcome her to today's event. Director Cranninger?
Thank you so much, Heather. I really appreciate it, and I am delighted to be here talking with all of you about this important topic in financial education. Financial education is certainly an important part of the Bureau's mission, and in fact, the Bureau has folks that are dedicated to financial education, as well as staff who are dedicated to helping students and their families make informed decisions about financing higher education. When prospective students, including high school seniors, face enrollment deadlines and have to choose which school they want to attend, they consider multiple factors. These include location, size, student body, and degrees and programs offered. But an equally, if not more important factor is cost. A potential student will make a series of financial decisions before they ever step foot on campus. One critical moment is when a student receives a financial aid award letter from an accepting institution. Choosing a college or university that is the right financial fit for the student and the family can have long-term financial benefits and impacts. Students planning to go to college often look at the sticker price or published tuition rate and associated fees as an indicator of affordability. However, there are more costs associated with going to college than just tuition and fees. Students will need to consider books and supplies, housing and meals, transportation, and additional personal expenses like medical or child care. In addition to the true cost of college, students also need to understand their financial aid offers. How much of the cost does it leave uncovered? What are the requirements and potential pitfalls of each type of funding? Knowing how much they will need to save, earn, or borrow is key to finding the right financial fit and avoiding unexpected pitfalls and shortfalls. Well, over half of college students use student loans to pay for school. These students also need to look at whether they can afford to repay this debt after graduation. They need to consider the long-term affordability of these loans, such as whether their expected salary at graduation would cover their loan payments along with other living expenses. These can be hard questions to answer. To help students navigate paying for college, today the Bureau has released an updated online tool that helps students with financial aid offers make informed decisions about what to do next. The tool, titled Your Financial Path to Graduation, can help answer these important questions, like, do I have enough funding to get to graduation? And can I afford these student loans in the long run? The tool builds on our successful Paying for College suite of tools. It's designed for students to use on their own or with help from high school counselors or college financial aid advisors. Over the next couple months, the Bureau will recruit and work with colleges and high schools to pilot the tool as part of the financial aid outreach and advising. We are excited to provide a webinar today offering a demo of this new tool, and we are also delighted to be joined by participants in our pilot program who are using this tool with their students right now. Thank you very much for all of you who are joining us today. Thank you to our partners for helping us improve upon this tool and launch it through the pilot program. And thank you to Heather for walking us through the webinar and getting the great information to everyone. So thank you again, and back to you, Heather.
And thank you, Director Cranninger, for being a strong advocate for financial education. We're so glad that you were able to join us today. I'm going to skip back a bit and I would like to take a moment to actually introduce the two other main speakers, and one of them will have a couple of guests that she'll introduce as well. After I get through my preliminary slides, we will hear from Kate Mullen. Kate Mullen is a policy analyst in CFPB section for students and young consumers. She focuses on repayment issues. Previously, she was a high school math teacher and education researcher. She's also done many other amazing things in addition to developing the tool that you're going to see today, and she's very humble. She provided me that bio, and that's what she wanted you to know about her. Leslie Jones is a youth financial education analyst at the CFPB. She's a former business teacher, instructional designer, curriculum supervisor, and developer. She advises on K-12 financial education program issues and the development of national approaches to support K-12 financial education. It's rare that I go anywhere and work at an exhibit and I don't have someone come up to me and mention Leslie or meet someone that knows about Leslie. So she's done quite a bit of outreach, and many of you may have run into her, and we're grateful to have her with us today to talk about what she has available on her portal for high school students that are preparing, because we all know that if this process starts earlier than just when we're ready to get into college. So we're so happy to have those two speakers, and you'll hear from the other guest speakers during Kate's presentation. Before we actually get started, I wanted to read through our disclaimer. This presentation is being made by a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau representative and other representatives on behalf of the Bureau. It does not constitute legal interpretation, guidance, or advice of the Bureau. Any opinions or views stated by the presenter are the presenter's own and may not represent the Bureau's views. And this document is part of a live discussion, so when you get the slides on your own, we just put that little disclaimer in there so you realize that you may miss a few things if you weren't on the webinar. But this webinar will be recorded and it will be posted to our website, so you will have an opportunity to view again or share it with others if you'd like. I'd like to go through our mission and vision. The mission of CFPB is to regulate the offering and provision of consumer financial products or services under the federal consumer financial laws and to educate and empower consumers to make better informed financial decisions. Our vision, a free, innovative, competitive, and transparent consumer financial market where the rights of all parties are protected by the rule of law and where consumers are free to choose the products and services that fit their best individual needs. I wanted to make you aware that we do have a very robust coronavirus pandemic website. We include a lot of information on protecting your finances, managing your finances, and dealing with some of the financial challenges that are coming about as a result of this global challenge that we're all facing. If you have not visited, I encourage you to visit that site. Let's go back here. I wanted to also bring to your attention that we link to other sites like CDC and HUD for some housing information. So it can be a very good one-stop shop location for all pandemic, or at least a first stop for all pandemic-related information. So we encourage you to have a look at that. We also have some great research done by our research group on the early effects of COVID-19 pandemic on credit applications. So if anyone's interested in taking a peek at that, you can click through to this web address and you will get the entire report. Just a quick preview, there was a significant drop in credit applications according to the consumer credit panel that we have, which has millions literally of anonymous credit reports. So you can see that activity was significantly down in March. They will be doing some follow-up work on this, and you can check back on this webpage to get data and research related to COVID-19 effects, especially for practitioners that want to stay abreast of what's happening in the economy and so that they can convey information as needed to their clients. This is the landing page for our adult education practitioner resources, and you see the link at the bottom. I'll also have a slide that repeats all of the links and the email address for our program. But this page represents all of the materials that we provide to practitioners. The CFPB FinX program is the CFPB Financial Education Exchange. We have over 18,000 subscribers now, and we are working constantly to provide new information and update information to this page. Just so you know, at the top right, there's a location that you can submit a complaint. If you're a practitioner working with clients and you would like them, you think that they're in a situation where they've tried to resolve something and they need to file a complaint, you can work with them to do that through that link, and it's at the top of each of our web pages as well. On the bottom right of this page, you'll see a place where you can actually join our financial education LinkedIn group. And you can, once you join, you're free to post announcements and read the announcements that others have there. It's a great networking tool. And in the middle of that right column, you'll see an email address box. It's a field where you can just put your email in on that web page, and that will sign you up for our FinX program if you're not already a member. In the middle, you'll see our upcoming webinars listed on that page. And if you click at the link below the webinar announcement, it says View Details and Access Previous Webinars. You can get access to over 50 webinars that have happened over the past years related to professional finance topics. And you can download those webinars for your own use to learn. You can also share those recordings with clients if that's helpful for you. Many of them also have slides that you can download as well, and you're free to take those slides and repurpose them for your own training. In fact, we encourage you to do that. So several tools that I just wanted to point out there. Many of you may have been familiar with Your Money, Your Goals resources. We have several credit booklets that go along with this. You can download all of these documents from our webpage, and the link that takes you directly there is below. Additionally, later, Leslie Jones will talk with you about how you can order free copies in bulk and have them shipped to your location if you want to use them for training or one-on-one financial coaching. And last, I wanted to talk with you about our Ask CFPB location. Over 1,000 questions with detailed, non-biased answers on personal financial topics are on this page, and we encourage you to visit this page, link to it, and also share it with clients that you may serve as financial practitioners so that they know how to resource and look for some answers to their own issues on their own. We have social media sites, and the information is here, again, for our LinkedIn group and our LinkedIn page. We also have a Twitter account, and we have Facebook as well. So if that's something that interests you, we encourage you to visit those locations. And this is a summary if you want to take a quick picture of this page for yourself or a snippet that gives you the information for most of the links that we provided earlier. Additionally, the second bullet paragraph is the address for the CFPB FinX box. If you have any questions about anything today, that you needed to have answered or anything related to financial practitioners and our resources, please feel free to email that box and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Okay, with that, we're ready to hand it over to Kate.
Hi, Heather. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Am I grabbing the ball or are you passing it? Okay, great.
I just passed it. It took me a minute, so I'd like to welcome Kate, and I thank you for your patience. Are you all set? Did you get it?
Yep, I'm all good. Thank you so much.
Okay, wonderful. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you, Heather, and thank you all for joining us. I'm very excited to show you the tool that my team and I have been working on for the past year. As the table of contents here shows, I'm first going to share a little bit of background on your financial path to graduation. Then I'll give you a quick tour of the tool. And then finally, we'll talk about the pilot that we're running for schools and college access organizations that want to integrate the new tool into their work with students during the upcoming school year. For more insight into that, we are fortunate to be joined by two folks who have already signed up for that pilot. Lezan Sadikova is the Assistant Director of Financial Aid, Scholarships, and Graduate Assistantships at George Washington University's Milken Institute School of Public Health. And we're also joined by Stacy Gamage, who is an avid high school teacher at Sonia Point High School in Round Rock, Texas. So they will be sharing their thoughts about their experience and their plans for the tool after I do my demo, and they will be available to answer your questions. Okay, briefly, this slide explains consumer education and the special populations that we serve. I'm from this section for students and young consumers, and our main goal here that the tool serves is to educate and engage students in order to prevent student loan default. Some of the resources that Heather and Leslie mentioned, or Leslie will cover. One thing I want to point out is we have our own inbox, our own mailing list rather, which is in the first bullet. And you can also reach out to us at students@cfpb.gov. Okay, onto the research behind the tool. So there are many studies that have indicated that students could benefit from some help thinking about their loans in the long run. And here are some studies for statistics, for example, from FINRA's 2018 Financial Capability Study. What I find compelling here in terms of making the case for education efforts is that less than half of the respondents with student loans had calculated their future monthly loan payment before they took out their loan. So our new tool certainly does that, but it also takes a holistic view of the massive financial decision that students are making when they are choosing to enroll in an institution of higher learning. So this graphic shows where the tool comes in during the college process. So after students have already applied to school and been accepted, they've already received their financial aid offers, this tool can help them make final decisions about where or even whether to go to school and how they're going to pay for it. So we're trying to offer a moment of pause amidst all this excitement about moving forward in their education so they can think carefully about college as an investment that they want to pay off in the long run. So to do that, we talked to many students, parents, and advisors. This slide and the next one offer some details on what we heard from these stakeholders. And I'll just summarize by saying that students are excited and they are confused. They are confused about financial aid. They are juggling competing priorities, just like everyone else in the world. And they are really trusting and relying on parents and advisors to help them make decisions that will fit their goals. And this slide provides some details on what we heard from those trusted parents and advisors. They echoed the complexity that students are perceiving. And just so you know, we plan to continue soliciting feedback from stakeholders and using it to improve the tool. Finally, we spent some time with some other published research. For example, this study from New America and U Aspire helped us understand some of the precise causes of confusion when students are trying to make decisions based on their financial aid offer. Okay, so enough about this preamble behind the tool. Let's take a look at it, and I'll just take 1 second to get my screen up. And you can go to, if you want to follow along at home, you can go to consumerfinance.gov/gradpath, and that will take you right to what we're going to be looking at. So this is the landing page, and we'll just go ahead and get started. Okay, so before we even talk about what's on the screen, I want to use the menu over here to preview the journey that we're going to take. So it's going to start with the information that's in the financial aid offer, and then we will work on making our ends meet for the upcoming school year. Once we've done that, we can look at a projected debt total at graduation, and that will help us evaluate whether the loans are affordable in the long run. And then finally, we will make some decisions about next steps, and then you'll have a chance to save and finish at the end. So that's the preview there. All right, so we're going to use the tool as if we have received a pre-populated link from Example University. This is if you end up participating in the pilot. If you're an IHE, this is what you'll be sending out to students. So all the information that you see selected on the screen here, Example University, bachelor's, 4 years, all of this is captured up in the URL. And that is how a school or a user can, quote unquote, save the tool without having to create an account or anything like that. And if we had come to the tool independently, then it would have looked like, it would have looked like this, just blank, and we would have entered all of that. Okay, so we've given some basic information, and this allows us to bring in the correct debt totals and other important data. Then we start off by looking at costs. We are trying to encourage students to think broadly about their costs so they don't get caught short. All of these fields are interactive, so the school can send out their standard budget, and then a student can customize this. So for instance, if they know that they're going to be spending $2,000 that school year on transportation costs, if they are going to need a few $100 a month for personal expenses, if they have a car payment that they're trying to keep up with that's not really part of what financial aid would be budgeting for, they can enter all of that in here. And that allows the student to budget for the full cost of attending school that year. Then we move into different types of funding. I want you to notice the sticky in the upper right-hand corner here that says costs not yet covered. That's going to track our uncovered costs. And in this case, it's lower because of funding on the screen and other. So in this case, I can scroll down. I can see I got some Pell Grant money, some other grants. If I had received service member benefits, they would be here, a little scholarship. And then at the bottom, we have money-saving tips and these little know before you go. Those are the pitfalls to watch out for that the director mentioned. All of the content in these boxes that appear throughout the tool come directly from feedback interviews that we had with students and parents and advisors. Okay, so work study, we try to make it very clear that this is the max and that the student will have to get hired and actually earn this money. Federal loans, of course, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to loans. On this page, we try to include the must-know information, like the fact that subsidized loans are cheaper than unsubsidized loans. We try to explain briefly how the interest rate and the loan fees work. And you'll see here at the bottom that the funding subtracts the loan fees. And that's the number that's going to get taken away from the costs. But those loan fees will, of course, be included in the debt total. If they have other loan sources that they want to look at, and then other cash sources, what's available outside of the financial aid offer. I want to point out here that students might need to go have conversations with parents and grandparents or apply for more funding. So every screen offers the option to save the URL and come back to it later. So as their plan evolves, as they get more information, as they hopefully find more funding, they can come back and revise their plan as many times as they like without having to create an account. Okay, so at this point, they've put in all of the information that they have, and now we're trying to see what we can do to cover this last $8,000. So before we do that, it's a good chance that debt is going to come into covering that. So we have them look at a little bit more information about student loans, how they can save on the cost of borrowing. This graph right here, this bar graph, compares the total cost of borrowing over the life of the loan. If you are paying back a pretty typical amount of debt, $30,000 over 10 years versus 25 years. And you can see that the interest payments over those two debt lives are quite different. Okay, so this is the heart of the tool. This graph tracks whether the funding has met the costs. And we know a lot of parents and advisors have spreadsheets where they kind of grind out the numbers for each student. This section is basically a spreadsheet. It just doesn't look like one. And it allows you to go back and revise on what you've already worked for. And this time we take you through an order purposely from what we see as the cheapest to the most expensive options. So for instance, if this student wants to plan on getting into the cheapest dorm, they can do that. And now their costs will come down, and now we're starting to see the ends will start to meet. If they, talk to their grandmother and they hear back that she can offer them $1,000, they can enter that in here. So everything that they've just looked at is available on this page, but without having to go back all the way through it. And we'll just throw in another $1,000 here. And then if they've done all they can with the screens that they've already seen, then we can come down and look at Parent Plus and private loans. So we give some basic just rundown of what we think is most essential to know, and then we link here to the Department of Ed for more information on those options, and then they can go ahead and put those in. One thing I really love about this screen is that even though Parent Plus loans are, of course, made to the parents, that's who is legally responsible for them, many families we know plan to have the student repay them. So if that is the decision that family is looking at, then they can click this checkbox, and now that debt total will be included that Parent Plus debt will be included in the student's debt total. Okay, and I purposely left some uncovered costs because I wanted to show you on this screen, as we're looking at now affordability issues, that we're trying to point out, hey, you have some uncovered costs, so this might be an underestimate. We assume similar borrowing each year, so what that means is for federal loans, we assume that you're going to keep using the same percentage of the available amount, and then for your other loans, your Parent Plus, your private loans, that they're all just going to stay constant. And then our guideline here is that your projected total debt should be less than the median salary that you expect to make coming out of school. So this salary data is pulled in from College Scorecard. And I know a lot of you right now are thinking, wait, there's program level data. Yes, there is, and we will be getting it into this tool as soon as possible. Currently, for graduate students, the program level data is available, and we are working on making that happen for the undergrads. So in this case, the median salary is a little bit less than the projected total debt. From our experience, that's pretty common, and you get this warning saying, hey, you might want to rethink about whether this plan is right for you. Another big picture gut check is looking again at that total cost of the loan over the life of repayment. And this is one of several places that we mention the option of making payments during school in order to reduce those capitalization costs. So now that we've looked at it at a big picture, we can also look at affordability in terms of month to month, can you actually afford to service this loan? We have two ways of looking at that. One is we took that estimated monthly loan payment and just looked at it. If you're taking home $15 an hour, how many hours are you going to have to work to cover that payment? How many weeks out of the month is your paycheck going towards covering this monthly loan? And then you can also look at it in more detail in a sample budget. So we take that monthly loan payment that we've estimated, that median salary, we make it monthly, and then we bring in some data about what is typical spending at that salary in different parts of the country. So maybe you can afford this loan payment in the Midwest, but if you're planning to live in the South, it's going to be a little bit tighter. And then all of these fields down here for the budget can actually be edited, so your non-traditional student who's already supporting themselves can plug in their real expenses and see how this low payment fits into their monthly budget. Okay, so we've made our ends meet. We've looked at the affordability of our loan. This page gives students the opportunity to look at some statistics about the school and whether it's the right investment for this debt. So we focus on a few key metrics here. For right now, we have graduation rate, we have the default rate, and we have the repayment rate. And then these allow for some comparison. So if you're looking at a four-year schools, you're only going to be comparing to other four-year schools. And you can do a nationwide comparison, a statewide comparison, or you can just compare it to all other public or all other private. Okay, so we're almost done, and you see why we encourage students to come back to the tool because it's a lot to think about. This page allows them to review line by line all of the numbers in their plan so that they can do an apples-to-apples comparison among schools. And pretty soon these will be extractable as a PDF, and we're exploring other ways to facilitate that comparison function as well. And once they've reviewed and they have a sense of, yes or no, do I feel good about moving forward with this plan, we offer them some next steps. So if they want to put this plan into action, we have some steps they can take. And if they are thinking, I want to think about some other options, we give some ideas about that here. And then finally, one last opportunity to grab their URL with their complete plan in it. They can provide us some feedback, we hope, and then they can start over if they have another plan to compare to. So that's your financial path to graduation. And let me see, stop sharing. Great. So back into our little slide deck here. I want to talk about the pilot again. If your organization can make use of this tool with students, we have a pilot group for you. So we have a pilot group for post-secondary institutions as well as for high schools and any college access organizations. We'd love to collaborate with you on setup and impact evaluation, but you do get to choose the extent of your participation. We are envisioning quarterly touch points by phone or email between all of the participants. And participants will also be invited to co-present with us. And everything is free. You don't have to buy any software or training. All of this can be done in Excel if you need to. And now I'd like to bring on liaisons Sadikova from George Washington University and Stacy Gamage from Stony Point High School to tell you more about their experiences and their plans with the tool. And I'm wondering if liaison, if you'd be interested in speaking first.
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, I can definitely speak first. So I'm really happy to share my experience with why I chose to participate in the pilot, what my experiences have been, and then just some of the things that I found have worked with our students. So the main reason why, I was very excited to help with this tool and with this project in development is because of one main passion that I have that I'm sure all of us share in terms of that financial literacy can lead to smart borrowers. So in working at the George Washington University School of Public Health, our office specifically works with graduate students. So graduate students have very limited financial aid options. And NPH and MHA, so students within our group, are actually some of the luckier ones because they have an increased access to the unsubsidized loan and don't have to max out their Graduate Plus loan as much. But even with that, graduate students who need to cover living expenses, so if they utilize their unsubsidized loan, they still need to have expenses covered such as rent, food, insurance, transportation, things like that. And so they end up relying on Graduate Plus loans that involve a soft credit check. They have a higher interest rate and also a higher origination fee, as we saw in the tool. So to help our students, I started just a financial literacy program to kind of help our students make smarter decisions, learn more about what loans they're signing up for, and just help them prepare for what next stages in repayment might look like. So in line with this, I learned about this tool during the FSA conference, and I just thought this was the perfect way to educate our students about their costs, about financial aid, so that our students can be informed consumers and really feel empowered about their borrowing choices instead of feeling like they're being pushed into a direction or have no options. So with anything new, the first thing we really had to do was ensure that our office was providing the necessary support to really educate our students on how to use the tool and also recognize the value that this tool can offer. So our campaign in rolling out this tool is to, firstly, we're sending email notifications to our students. So we want to let them know this is a change that's coming. It's another resource for you, and to really encourage them to actually click on the link so that they can see, what their budget might look like for the upcoming academic year and make plans for it. So notifying our students and educating them that this is a heads up, this tool is going to be coming. The second thing we are focusing on doing now is really doing a huge social media post, so really engaging with our students on our online platforms, again, encouraging them to utilize this tool. And then, of course, the individual emails. So we're fortunate enough to have a system set up that can generate those individual links that we create for them, so they don't even have to fill in any information if they don't want to. But we've been able to set up those individual links and send out individual emails to our students. And then also webinars. With anything new, we need to show our students how they can use this tool, what visually might look like, how they can gain the most value, and also since we're learning alongside our students, they can also share ways that this tool has benefited them. So, and this can vary very widely for our graduate students, especially some students only borrow enough to cover tuition and fees, because they want to maintain their current work schedule, and some students want to take out loans and solely focus on their graduate work. So this tool really allows students to really focus in on what they want to borrow so that they don't over-borrow or under-borrow when it comes to their loans. And of course, following our first release of the tool, we'll also have follow-up surveys to hopefully see how students have been using this tool and what they found beneficial. And in this pilot experience, the last thing I want to share is working with the Cfpb team has been such a great experience. We were able to meet and talk about the goals of the tool to make sure, that this tool would achieve some of the goals that I had in mind and vice versa. We worked a lot together in planning on it, especially with using our student population, which is all graduate students. Which was, a little bit different in terms of what their financial aid packages might look like. And I really was involved in every part of the process, which I really enjoyed. I was able to provide feedback on the tool and its usability, able to provide and incorporate information that is beneficial for our graduate students and graduate population. And it's been a really enjoyable I really enjoyed being part of this process and being able to really tailor this to our graduate students, especially when financial aid can vary so drastically between, from student to student, from those who only want to borrow enough for tuition to those who want to completely take out loans to cover their full life expenses. So, and also creating the individual links was a very straightforward process. We're fortunate to have an IT contact that's been working with me to generate these links and get those sent out as soon as possible to really help push for the students to receive the links in a timely manner, and then also be educated on how to use these, how to use the link and why it's beneficial. So yeah, thank you, and I guess that's all I have to share for now.
Great, thank you, Liaison. That was really helpful. I'm glad to hear you've had a good experience working with us so far. And I'm not seeing any questions for you per se in the chat at the moment. But if anyone has any, please feel free to put those in the Q&A. And then Stacy, if you wouldn't mind talking about your experience or your plans rather from the high school perspective.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be a part of this pilot. My name is Stacy Gamage, and I'm a high school teacher at Stony Point High School in Round Rock, Texas. I teach a program called AVID, which is designed to help underrepresented students get into college. So I work with students all the way through their high school career. I work with them on academics, but I also work with them on the whole college admission process. So testing, how to get into college, and then how to pay for college, which is how I came to be part of this pilot. Being able to pay for college is a huge component of what we discuss in AVID because a lot of my students come from low socioeconomic backgrounds. And so working with students and being able to see what their plan is and kind of give them an idea of their options, it has been really helpful. And this tool has been really helpful in that process. I'm also working on an advising guide to help facilitate discussions between students and counselors or teachers or parents so that they can work through this process because it is a complicated process, as we all know, and everyone's situation is different, so having some kind of guidance is going to be very helpful. So in my class, we're going to be using the tool to help compare financial aid offers and help them decide which college is the right financial fit for them. The tool is kind of a jumping off point for the discussion and the decisions that the students need to make. One of the things that I really liked about using this is that the tool combines information that we would generally have to get from multiple sources and combines it all into one so that we don't have to go to 8 different places to get answers to our questions. You see all of the information right there in front of you. And then the guide that I'm working on will kind of help facilitate those discussions about what your costs are. It'll help you figure out things that you didn't consider that you would have to pay for. It helps consider different options for paying for school, the different types of financial aid. Let me see. I talk to students also in this guide about their degree plan and how that can affect their costs if they change their major, if they take more than 4 years. So there's just a lot of information that goes into making this decision, and we'll be using this tool to make sure that we have complete discussions rather than leaving out important factors that will surprise the students later on. One of the things that I liked best about the tool, and this is one of the pages that Kate pointed out, was the Make a Plan page where you can change the numbers and see how that affects your financial situation later on. And also I like being able to see the amount of debt and how interest is affected and all of that. I think that's pretty much it. It's a lot of information that students need to know, and just being able to have it all in one spot and being able to answer those questions and facilitate those questions between students and their parents and help them make those decisions has been really helpful.
Thank you, Stacy. I really appreciate it. And okay, I think we're all good on questions for right now. So thank you, everyone, for your attention during that portion. If you want to sign up for the pilot or you need more information, here's my email, catherine.mullen@cfpb.gov. And now over to Leslie, who is going to share some great K-12 resources with us.
Thank you so much, Kate, for sharing that excellent tool. And now I would like to share with you some ways that you can teach to this topic with a large group of students. We will go one more now. I am the K-12 specialist here at CFPB. My work is to help educators teach financial literacy skills to youth, and Heather gave my bio earlier, so I don't need to go over that again. All right. We currently have financial literacy activities available on our website. There are there are over 190 activities available on the website for middle and high school educators to use with the students that they work with or the children they work with. And of those, 12 of those activities are on the topics of saving for or paying for college. We tackled both avenues because one focus needs to be how am I going to save for college, and another avenue is then, of course, how will I pay for this. These activities that we have can be completed within a single class period. They're generally speaking 15-minute activities, 45-minute activities, or 80-minute activities. Now, each of these activities comes with a teacher guide and supporting student material, so it's very easy to implement whether you're an experienced personal finance teacher or you're integrating financial literacy into another subject area or supplementing some additional curriculum you already have. What I'd like to point out are a few. You can type, we have a search box, and you can just type in a topic that you're looking for. In this case, it probably would be saving for or paying for college. But you can also filter these results, filter what's there and get your answers easily. A couple I'd like to suggest. One is activity type. And for activity type, I would think that small group or whole group would probably be most useful. And then you can also choose a teaching strategy. Like, do you want to do direct instruction or do you want more personalized instruction? The example that I have here is an activity called Talking with Your Family About Paying for Higher Education. And that's on what we call our little cards on the side that give a little more description so you can figure out, do I want more information or not? In this activity, students would do internet research and build their awareness of scholarships, grants, loans, and work study options that can help them pay for college. But then also what they have to do is then talk about their findings with a parent or guardian. So you start that conversation about paying for higher education, even if perhaps the family isn't familiar with the topic already. So you can filter, and then you find different activities. And when you click for the activity to see if you want more information, you'll get to this page. And this page is a little different. This is a generic page, but I wanted you to be able to see this kind of information. And this one is tracking income for a farming family. But the big thing is we have a big idea, essential questions, the objectives of what the students will learn, and specifically what the students will do. So you get a quick summary and decide whether or not you want to download the materials for the activity or not. These activities are designed to help you get students familiar with the tools that they will need as high school juniors and seniors to identify how to pay for or save for college. Let me show you three of our activities specifically that you can use with working with students. The first one, let me click here, is using a student loan calculator. And one of our activities, so this activity teaches how to use a student loan calculator. And one of the unique pieces to this activity is that it mentions the benefits of prepayment on total loan repayment. So we don't often talk to students about the advantages of actually starting to repay your loan while you're actually still receiving the loans while you're in college. But if you do have the money, it can be advantageous down the road for total repayment to start paying ahead. And then also when they are in repayment later on, mentioning the fact that paying above those minimum payments can pay it off faster, can get money in your pockets more quickly. And so this activity is just, I think, another 45-minute activity, but can get them familiar with using those loan calculators and get them thinking the right way about paying it off faster, paying their loans off faster. Another one is understanding how much student debt you can afford. This lesson goes straight uses the new tool that Kate went over earlier, and the goal is to reinforce that it's helpful to your budget to look at your salary and income in relationship to your loan repayment requirements. And another goal of this activity is to encourage students to decide how much debt is too much before they take out the loan. So if you don't have financial aid offer letters to share with the students ahead of time, an activity like this can help them start getting familiar with the tool so that then when they actually do get their offer letter down the road, they're actually able to implement it really quickly because they've gotten familiar with the tool using some sample situations and information. And then the third and final activity is learning how federal financial aid can help you pay for higher education. And with this one, they're going to watch a video that is on the Department of Education website. And the focus of this will be that federal financial aid versus the non-federal or private sources of financial aid. And again, this one ties in with the information that is in the tool that Kate went over, and that whole thing of what are the differences between these types of federal financial aid versus that private aid, what's more appealing to me, what's more interesting to me, what do I think is more likely that I will be able to use. And so it's going to review loans versus work study versus grants and scholarships. It's a way to get that conversation started before you do a deep dive into the tool. So these are just already there. They're ready to be used, and they're fast, simple activities that can help you be starters or go more in depth into using the tool. And as Heather promised, I'm going to also talk about our CFPB bulk publication site. So here's a question I have for you. Have you ever visited a warehouse club before? If you have, you probably went in for one or two items, and then as you were traveling through the store, you probably found numerous things that you could use. Well, that's like our CFPB bulk publication site. We have materials for mortgages and savings at tax time and newcomers' guides to managing their money, and many publications on the topic of credit. And of course, I got to mention youth financial education and money as you grow. We have all sorts of great titles and topics and print materials. You're able to put them in your cart. You give your address, and we mail this to you. It ends up at your front door, and you're able to share it with the people that you work with and helping them to have hard copy material to use to improve their financial literacy and to understand how to manage their money a little bit better. And the best part, of course, is that it is of no cost to you, but a wealth of materials and information that you can use. So if you've never visited our Pueblo site and our bulk publication site, please stop by later this week and enjoy yourself, because I'm sure you'll find something that you can use and will enjoy. All right, so Heather, I am going to pass the ball back to you, but you have to give me a minute because I have to find you and then give it to you. So here it comes, back to Heather, and thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Leslie, for that great information. We really appreciate it. Well, wonderful. We've heard a lot of good information, and a lot of it quickly, and we've moved much more quickly than we anticipated. So at this point, we're going to take a look at some questions. I think that a lot of questions have been answered in the chat as we went along, but just first I wanted to give Kate or Leslie, I guess Kate, since she's had more time to look, a chance to answer any questions she's seen that she feels we need to discuss with the entire audience. Kate?
Sure. Thanks, Heather. So I didn't realize that you can't all see each other's Q&A questions. So some of my answers probably looked like they were coming out of thin air. So I just quickly wanted to run through some of the ones that seemed most applicable. I was asked if the slides will be available for download. As far as I know, I think we're just posting the webinar, but if you email me at catherine.mullen@cfpb.gov, I can send you the deck. And then I was asked about using the tool as a replacement for a net price calculator, which we have been thinking about that, Ms. Davis. I had not forgotten about your comment earlier this year about that. And the answer is we're just not sure yet. My understanding is the net price calculator is supposed to be used when students are still shopping around for schools before they even apply. And our tool doesn't really work as well for that. And then, to be honest, with the pandemic and everything, we have had just a new influx of work, and figuring that out just kind of fell by the wayside. So I was asked if there is a link to the demo. If by demo you mean the webinar itself, this demo I just did that is recorded, it will be posted on the FinX website. If you mean the website itself, the website is totally live. It's not just a demo, and I'm going to put that back in the chat again. It's consumerfinance.gov/gradpass, and anyone can reach it there. And then where is the page? Okay, and then I think I also put into the chat Leslie's teachers platform that she was just sharing with us, which is amazing. I'm going to put that into the chat again as well. And my email, let me spell it out and put it. If you email the student's inbox, it'll make its way to me too, but this is a little bit faster if you send it right to my email. Let's see, other questions. I was asked, this is a great one. Are the numbers in the tool supposed to be annual? The answer is yes. We tried doing something by term, but there's so many different types of terms, it just got really confusing. So they are supposed to be annual. And then the projected debt total is for the entire program. So on that first page, when you tell us the length of the program, we use that to do some basic multiplication and give an estimate there. Another great question about why are we using the median salary, since most students starting out won't make the median salary. I completely agree. That is a huge concern, and unfortunately, this is what we have available to us. The program level data should help a little bit with that, but the problem there, if you've looked at that on College Scorecard, is that a lot of that data is privacy suppressed. So there's not really going to be a perfect data source there, but we're definitely going to keep trying to make it better. I was asked if the data can show the difference between in and out-of-state tuition for public schools. The answer is yes, but probably not as conveniently as you would like, because you'd have to kind of switch back and forth between the pages to see the difference. But it will do that. It just won't, in a really nice way illustrate that difference. And I think that's it. Yep,
great.
Press release just came out. Email address again. And do we get continuing education units for this webinar? That's a question for Heather.
Great. Kate, thank you so much, Kate. I appreciate that. We do not offer formal transcripts for continuing education units. If you have an urgent need about something, please send an email to cfpb_finx@cfpb.gov. I can sometimes craft something for you just to write it, but we have no way of verifying who's been here for the entire time. So for that reason, we really can't provide something that most professional organizations will use for CEUs. We hope to do that in the future. Okay, so
Heather, there's actually one more question that was for Leslie. Sure. Leslie, I don't know if you saw it. Do I have to be a teacher to use activities for my upcoming webinar with middle school children? And I think
absolutely not. Sorry, yeah, absolutely not. You do not have to be a teacher. We definitely write to an audience of people who aren't as familiar with financial literacy topics as they'd like to, but want to know more. And we give you the information. There's a section called the key financial concepts of the topic and things like that. So we keep it really pretty focused and simple on an individual topic so that it's easy for you to understand or for you to communicate with students. So not at all. And anybody that's working with the littlest of people, our K-12 or K-5 materials will be out at the end of August. So take a look for that. Keep your eye out for that.
And Heather, I have one more question
Leslie.
that just came in for mine. Sorry, can I answer one last question?
Oh, absolutely.
Sure. So it says, are the costs for the colleges pulled in, or do we have to add it? So there's multiple answers here. When a student comes in without a pre-populated link, they've just, shown up on the website, they're actually given the option. If they have a financial aid offer in front of them that has the cost listed out, then they can hit yes there, my offer does have the cost, and they can enter them in themselves. If they say no, my offer does not have the costs, then we bring in the most recent data from College Scorecard, which is usually a couple years out of date just because of the lag in data collection. And then if you want to send out a pre-populated link, then you can, of course, put in exactly whatever the numbers are that you would be sending out in a normal financial aid offer.
Great. Thank you, Kate. And I just communicated with Christine, who's the operator, and she's going to go ahead and give some instructions to open the line. Since we have a little bit more time, we can take a few more questions, and then we'll wrap up. So those that want to get their time back and don't need any answers to questions, you're free to move on at this point, and we thank you for coming. And you have email addresses for each of our programs if you have future questions. For anybody that'd like to stay on and answer a couple more questions, since we have a little bit more time, feel free to the operator's getting ready to give instructions, and you can queue up your questions. Christine, are you ready to give this questioning instructions?
Yes. At this time, if you would like to ask an audio question, please make sure that your phone is unmuted, press *1, and state your name clearly when prompted. Again, that is *1 to ask a question. If you do need to withdraw your question, press *2. One moment while we wait for questions to queue up.
Thank you, Christine. One question just came up. If there's no data sharing, can you explain how you are able to send individualized pre-populated links? And that's for Kate.
Sure, happy to. So the way we do that is actually the URL, the actual link itself. We give you basically a formula to follow in formulating that URL, and so that you can just send it out. So I could actually just sit here in the chat and start typing out a URL following that formula, and I could send that. That could be the whole chat's pre-populated link, and it would show up. All the numbers would be there. But I didn't actually. When you do that, you're not actually sharing your data with the CFPB in order to do that. You're just creating that link in your Excel spreadsheet or whatever kind of database you have for your financial aid offer data, and then sending it out. Liaison, do you want to chime in there with what that process was like for your IT folks?
Yeah, sure. The link was fairly easy to create. We just I collaborated with our IT department, and we had the link skeleton, I suppose, and then we just filled in the numbers that we wanted. So we were able to designate, this student has this scholarship, so the scholarship field is going to have this number in the link, so that when the student clicked on it, it pre-populated their entire financial aid offer, including the loans, our estimated award letter, any cost, our cost of attendance, and then they can kind of go through it and adjust if they, spend less on rent or whatever to customize it to their own budget. But creating the link itself was very straightforward. It was kind of my favorite part because it was just kind of fill it in, and then when you click on it, it actually pre-populates everything for you. So it's really, really nice. And then that way that student has that unique link. So even if they share it with others, they're not sharing their own personal information. They're just sharing information for a student who has, scholarship X, unsubsidized loan Y, and then a plus loan Z, So that part is nice too, that even if it leaks out or goes to the wrong email address, it's not going to compromise, the integrity of the data.
Yeah, great point. Thanks, Liaison. I didn't even think to mention that. And then when Liaison was saying, they can make their changes, every change that they make gets, again, reflected in the URL. So as you're going through and clicking on things and putting in numbers, the URL just keeps on changing in order to capture all those changes, which is how you can save it and come back to it later, and everything that you've done is still there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Christine, did we get any questions in the queue yet?
Yes, we do have one question from Bianca Castellone. Ma'am, your line is open.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a question. I already have student loans, but I'm glad I found something like this. It's going to be very helpful going forward. So is it possible to, like, since I already have student loans, to, you know, kind of offset the cost, maybe take out less loans, you know, help pay like half? Or do I have to wait until after I leave college to pay the rest of it off? Since you guys said that students usually pay the same amount of loans each year.
Sure. So, hi, Bianca. First of all, students tend to do, like, we make some assumptions that their borrowing is going to be similar from one year to the next, but you absolutely do not have to do that. And in fact, when you get a financial aid offer, even if you are offered a certain amount, say you're offered the full subsidized loan, $3,500, you are definitely not obligated to take all of that. You can, you know, we encourage you to borrow just only what you need to cover your costs. So if it's going to be enough to borrow $2,000, then only borrow $2,000. And then I think another part of your question was, can you start paying off your loans while you're still in school? And that is definitely a yes. And you'd want to make some specific arrangements with the, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Bianca, were you about to say something?
Oh, that wasn't me.
Okay. Is that answering your question? Am I kind of understanding you right?
Yeah, so I would have to make specific arrangements with maybe my school in order to, like, help, you know, get that sorted out to, like, help pay half.
Sure. So if you wanted to start making payments on your, especially on your unsubsidized debt that is accruing interest while you're in school, you'd at least want to be, you know, trying to pay off that interest. You'd make arrangements actually with the servicer. But the financial aid office at your school is a great resource if you want to talk to someone about how can I reduce the amount that I'm borrowing. I'm sure they'd be happy to sit down and help you figure that out.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Kate. And Christine, do we have any further questions that are on hold? I see 3 more possible questions in the Q&A, but is there anybody else online for a question?
We have no audio questions.
Okay, thank you. So we'll end the audio portion of the questioning. Kate, did you answer the question that asked about the cost for whether the cost for colleges are pulled in, or do you have to add it? I felt like it was kind of covered in that earlier question, but
yep, I did answer it, and the answer is it can be either or. You can put it into the URL, or you can have students enter it from their offer, or if it's not available in their offer, they can press a button and we'll bring in the most recent data from Department of Education. And then there was one more question about the options for schools assume that someone is starting from square one. That is correct, yes. And how does this accommodate non-traditional students or students who are returning to school? So that is a big shortcoming of the tool right now. At this point, the only place we really accommodate it is on the monthly budget page. There is a line item for existing debt payments so that they can account for that. And then we are starting work like tomorrow on a expanded version of the tool that will work better for non-first-year students. So that'll be part of the update I mentioned, where we're going to bring in the program-level data for undergraduates. We're also going to expand and make sure that the design and functionality works for students who have already have some college under their belt.
Great. Thank you so much, Kate. You're so efficient in getting through all those questions and checking them out as we went along and answering them. We appreciate that. And yes, the presentation will be available on the, I believe it's going to also be posted on the same page that Consumer Financial Protection Week is, but I also probably post it to the FinX webinar page if possible. So if you have trouble after a couple weeks locating it, feel free to send an email to the top email that's on the screen now, Cfpb FinX at cfpb.gov, and we'll be happy to help you get a hold of those documents. I think that Kate also offered to provide the slides if you email her immediately, and her email address is in the chat box as well.